Welcome back, everybody. We unfortunately have some bad news in terms of this output transformer for the Hiwatt DR103 project that I've been working on. A user pointed out in the comments of the last transformer video that this transformer with that lower primary impedance that we calculated of around 1200 ohms is actually going to be better suited for 6 EL34s, which the DR103 does not have. And I looked up and was able to find a Partridge transformer data sheet that kind of just lists every one of these model numbers for their transformers against the amps they were used in. And this did in fact come from a Sound City 120 amplifier, which has 6 EL34s. Now, just a little transformer talk. The reason that's going to be bad is that lower primary impedance is going to cause more current draw on the output tubes, which is going to then wear things out quicker, could cause things to draw current to the point where we're going to damage something. So that's not good. Now this does leave me with a few options, and I have my own opinions about the best way to approach this, but I am going to put this out to you guys as well. So comment on which one of these you think is the best move going forward. But we can still use this transformer. Here's our math from last time. And the way this works, transformers don't have set outputs. Like when we buy an output transformer for a guitar amp, we think of it as having, 16, 8, and 4 ohm taps on the output for our speakers, because that's the typical values that we use for speakers, or some combination of those. But really, what it's all about is the relationship between the primary and the secondary. So there's a turns ratio, the amount of turns that you have on each one of these coils, that determines that. So like we did in the math, when we assumed this was the 16 ohm at that voltage compared to this voltage, we get what we would consider to be a reflected impedance on this side. So what we can do, we still could use this transformer, basically shift things up. So instead of this being the 16 ohm, we would not use this and call this what I assumed was the 8 ohm tap, call that the 16, and then call the 4 the 8 ohm tap, and then we just wouldn't have a 4 ohm tap. We can look at, the same math that we used before for this guy. Instead of ending up with a 1261 impedance as the primary impedance, we now take the same number, instead of multiplying by 8, multiply by 16, and we get a doubled value, right? So this is our first option. I can still use this transformer. It'll be an original Partridge transformer, but instead of having the expected primary impedance like a typical Partridge transformer for a DR103 of 1750 ohms, we will have higher. We will have 2436. Now, this will result in slightly lower output. So it'll be a little bit less powerful. It'll put less wear and tear on the tubes, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it could sound a little different from that lower power output. Now, that's also not necessarily a bad thing when a Hiwatt DR103 is as loud as it is. This could actually make the amp slightly more usable for most situations. But we got ants coming in. Got to get the traps out. But again, so this is kind of a compromise, right? Option number one is use the original Partridge transformer from the era, but have a slightly different primary impedance. Option two would be to buy a Hayboer made replica of the DR103 output transformer. Now, I love Hayboer transformers. They are great. I have one in a 1970 Super Reverb that I bought, and sounds just as good as the originals. So that's not a bad way to go. However, those are currently sold out. So it would mean having to wait until they're back in stock, hopefully soon. The third option is I've been hunting down, looking for an original Partridge transformer for DR103. There are none available currently. I'm sure one will pop up someday. And if anybody has a lead on one, they want to sell at a fair price, I'm happy to buy it off you. But I know they're getting pretty rare these days, so that also might not happen anytime soon. But there are a couple 50 watt ones. So I could, as option number 3, get a original from the era Partridge transformer, pull 2 of the tubes on the Hiwatt DR103, and run it at 50 watts. So again, let me know what you guys think. I am leaning towards just doing the rest of the work that needs to be done in that time, hoping that the Mojo Tone ones come back in stock, then doing the transformer. That's maybe my preference at this point, but we do also have this transformer right here ready to go. So I think second would be, in my opinion, trying this out, see how it sounds, compare it to my buddies. Maybe it's not going to be a noticeable difference audibly. And then number 3 would be take a risk on one of the 50 watt transformers that's out there that I could buy right now. But again, curious to hear what other people think about this. Let me know in the comments. In this situation, if this was your amp, which direction would you go? That being said, tomorrow night I'm going to dive into the actual work, so I'll be posting the videos maybe like Tuesday or late Monday night, starting with replacing the caps, trying to clean those power tube sockets, doing the restoration work to get this thing otherwise back up to stock as much as possible. Once again, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. I'll probably start another project, thinking next personal project outside of customer amps that we're going to do on the channel is either restoring a couple Sun solid states or a couple Ampeg V4s that I have that are personal amps that need caps and basic maintenance stuff. Or I also have all the parts and a PCB board and chassis to build up a replica of a original Mad Amp GT120 or Orange OR120. That'll be an interesting project. So let me know if you have opinions on that too. Thanks again for watching. Have a good day, guys.